Hello, and welcome to the finals of the UNPL Academy. I'm Zand, your coach of the San Diego Hydras, and I'm so excited you're here. I feel like we've had an amazing playoffs run. We've had some challenging games, we've had some great opponents, and it's been a really good season. And regardless of how the season ends, I'm really happy to have made it to finals. This is further than I expected it to make with this janky team that's mostly made up of Pokemon that filled in during the grace period after the draft. So none of these Pokemon, or at least not a lot of these Pokemon, were people's first pick. So I'm super happy with where we made it. For this video, I'm going to be going a little more in depth into my team building thoughts and process. So if you're just here for the battle, I'll leave a timestamp right down below. It'll be the first sentence in the description, so it should be right there, ready to be clicked. But if you'd like to hear my ideas on why I'm bringing what I'm bringing, please continue watching, and if you wouldn't mind to leave a comment letting me know what you've thought of this season, what your favorite set was, what you would have done differently. And subscribe if you haven't. I know a lot of my viewers aren't subscribed. We do get a little bit of natural population kind of out there in the wilds of people who are just kind of scrolling videos. And if you like this content or other Pokemon content, I would super appreciate if you would subscribe. So without further ado, our opponent today, his name is Crash, and he has an incredible team. Basic as can be. The team is so simple. It's the way he plays it is so straightforward, but it works, and it somewhat a little bit relies on luck, which if we lose today based on a flinch or on a paralysis, that's Pokemon. So we can't do too much to prevent that. I could have run some paralysis heal berries, I suppose, like a lum or a cherry berry somewhere, but I just didn't find it worth it. I feel like all the items we have are really important. So this is what I decided to run with today instead, was kind of a variation on Sun. Our opponent's team is a Sand core, and obviously Ninetales hates going against Sand. It hates going against Samurott Hisui. We've had this matchup before, and I'm pretty sure we didn't bring Sand then, or Sun then either. So we're a weather battle in the finals. It's pretty fun. He has the Superior, huge threat if it starts getting set up. I feel like we have decent answers, so I don't know that he brings it. Things like Slitherwing really scare it, so I don't know that he brings it, but he may. He's got the Raging Bolt. We played a Raging Bolt multiple times now. Darude had one, and he brought it against us both times. It's a terrifying Pokemon to prep against. The last couple times I went against it, things like Kilowattrel and Donphan were my main checks for it, and I didn't bring either to this matchup. So our checks for Raging Bolt are limited, but I think they're enough that we can offensively pressure it and kind of chip it down over time. He's got two really good defensive Mons into me, and I think they could be the difference in the way the game goes in Sylveon and Tentacruel. Sylveon is a super bulky fairy. I expect it to be the bulky variant just because these two Pokemon are his only checks to Wake in all reality. So I think he has to bring at least one of Sylveon and Tentacruel, if not both. What I see is Tentacruel is a huge problem for me with Liquid Ooze because it completely shuts down Sinistcha. Like, I can't heal against it. Shadow Ball's not doing that much. I can Calm Mind, but he can either poison me, knock off my item, just be generally annoying. So I think Tentacruel has an amazing matchup into Wake and Sinistcha. But I don't know if he has room for it. I don't know if he sees what I do, that I have a massive weakness to Tentacruel. His two Terra Captains are Articuno Galarian, which is, I believe, Terra Flying, Fighting, and Fire. So all the Fs. He has used it to great success this season, usually a Calm Mind Terra Blast set with Freezing Glare and Roost, or Recover, I suppose. This is a very scary Pokemon once it gets set up. You can't drop its stats because of competitive. It'll just raise them right back up. So that's kind of thrown out the window. He also has Typhlosion Hisui. It's an interesting Terra mix. It's Fire, Grass, and Stellar Terra, so we might actually get to see that. Although I think the most likely Pokemon for him to bring is the Articuno versus me. I think it's a lot more threatening. Once it gets set up, it can just win. And that's kind of the basis of his team. Then he's got the Scyther. I don't anticipate it. It is a defogger, but I think him looking at my team sees that I'm hazard weak and don't have great removal, or at least on paper don't have great removal. So I think maybe he brings Hazard Stack and leaves Scyther on the bench. I don't really anticipate it. I fully anticipate his Sand Core to come. So Tyranitar plus Excadrill. I really do think Raging Bolt has a really high chance of showing up. Samurott he's brought to every single game he's played, so I don't know why he'd leave it off now. The last the last two, it has to be something between Superior, Sylveon, Tentacruel, and Articuno. If I had to guess, I would say Sylveon, Articuno, and he leaves Superior and Tentacruel on the bench, but either of those could have a chance of coming. Now, I know he loves to run certain sets. He really likes Aqua Jet on his Samurott. He really likes either Swords Dance or Band on the Excadrill. And he really likes paralyzing things. He loves Glare on Superior, Thunder Wave on Tyranitar, paralyzing moves on Raging Bolt. And we didn't bring much against that. So I'm just going to have to essentially consider a paralyzed Pokemon a sack and keep bringing it in on the Pokemon that can paralyze me. Because once a Pokemon loses its speed, it's a lot less useful to me. But with that being said, here's what we're going to bring to try and beat him. The first Pokemon I saw that I thought looked really good was a Choice Scarfed Slitherwing. I think it looks amazing into this matchup. This set of moves, it's Dual Stab plus Earthquake and Wild Charge, hits pretty much everything for super effective, at least pre-Terra, and even post-Terra, it hits most things. Obviously, it has trouble breaking Sylveon, and it has trouble with Articuno if it becomes Fighting type. But other than that, this is just a fantastic pivot set. We're bringing Sun, getting the attack boost, and a lot of things get two hit KO'd by this. So I do think it'll be pivotal that we keep this thing alive. Second Pokemon that I really liked here was the Sinistcha. This set is no surprise to anyone. It's defensive with the typical 4 moves. Matcha Gotcha is really good here because burn spreading is how we could potentially win this game. And then Strength Sap keeps us healthy against all of his physical attackers. The plan is to keep this not Terra'd until Excadrill is gone, because Grass Ghost is a fantastic typing to deal with Excadrill. Problem being is a lot of things that want to come in on this kind of force the Terra, so I might be forced to steal Terra at some point, but we're going to try not to until Excadrill is gone or significantly weakened, because we can still take one non-banded hit if we're still Terra, but we don't want to. We've got the Cinderace. Yet another Pokemon that looked really clean into his team just because it naturally outspeeds his entire team. So the only way he outruns us is with Scarf, with Sand Drill, and with any kind of speed boost, things like Agility Articuno. Obviously, always fighting for coverage. I would have loved a fighting type move on this into his big 3, but at the end of the day, I thought it was less worth it because Pyro Ball hits Drill anyway, U-Turn hits Tyranitar anyway, Sucker Punch is amazing if Drill gets out of hand like a Swords Dance up in Sand. We need that priority. And then Core Change is just really nice. If he does decide to Hazard Stack us, I can force him back on him, and then either he has to spin or he has to set up hazards on us again, and then we both have to play with it, and that's okay. Fourth Pokemon I liked, very standard Screamtail. I wish I could have fit Psychic Noise on this set because that was a great way to beat things like Sylveon and Articuno, is to stop them from healing. But there's just no way to. Protect Encore is a really important duo of moves. Wish to keep ourselves and our teammates healthy is really good. And then I needed Gleam because if I ran a Psychic move, suddenly I can't hit Samurott or Tyranitar at all, and they could get really out of hand really fast. We've got the Wake. It's kind of a funny set this week, so we are running Timid, but we still have attack investment because I want Aqua Jet to do at least half to Excadrill so that hopefully Aqua Jet, Sucker Punch, and whatever I hit it with, if it tries to set up, is enough to knock it out and make Sand Drill not a problem. That's the hope. Hydro Steam is really good in the Sun. He really doesn't have great switch-ins to it. Even the Tentacruel and Sylveon, if Wake's in the Sun, either Hydro Steam or Draco does a ton of damage to each of them respectively. We kind of have to make some reads, but clicking water moves in general is really strong, which is why we have the Mystic Water. It really bumps up our attacks without us taking Life Orb recoil. I came up with these 5 really fast. I thought they all looked amazing into this matchup. And then I hit a brick wall. I had no idea what I wanted as my 6th Pokemon because I liked Quillfish. It sat on the team for a long time. It's a great switch into Samurott. I liked things like Donphan because it's a natural Raging Bolt check. Terra Ground Kilowattrel has no switch-ins on his team, but I just feel like it makes me so weak to Aqua Jet from Samurott. And I even like things like Sticky Web. Sticky Web at one point looked great if I brought Spin, as well as Knuckle Stack. If Knuckle Stack could Terra, and I didn't have to Terra on Sinistcha, I felt like it could do decent work. But I just could not make any of these sets fit. So what I ended up going with was this weird hybrid Ninetales, and I don't know if it's that good, to be honest with you. I could not pin down the set I wanted. I had Boots, I had a lot of different sets, but Ninetales just can't do any damage. At one point I even had Nightshade on it to help me like tear things down, but I changed that too. And so I hope this set is able to do some work. It's Overheat with Eject Pack to get us momentum in whatever his main switch into Ninetales is, probably something like Tyranitar. Will-O-Wisp is absolutely massive to spread onto his typical switch-ins to Ninetales. Obviously, Raging Bolt doesn't really mind a burn, which is why we bring the Fire Spin again, so that hopefully we can Fire Spin Encore into setup and beat it down that way. So the awkward part about that is if our Eject Pack is still active, we can't ever click Overheat while we have something trapped with Fire Spin, because then we'll just force pivot ourselves out. So we have to probably use Overheat early and then use the trapping set later. Hopefully spread some burns. This is kind of our paralysis fodder. If he decides to lead with something like Tyranitar, then we U-turn with our dedicated lead Slitherwing, and probably go into Ninetales and hope that it doesn't click a rock move. I doubt it will. It'll probably be Thunder Wave or Stealth Rocks immediately. Ninetales on Tyranitar, we can then Overheat to chip it and pivot ourselves out. We can burn it, or we can Encore it into something like Stealth Rock, since it really has no reason to switch out. So that's kind of the game plan, is we have 3 really strong offensive mons, 1 defensive pivot in Screamtail to hopefully keep us up. We got Ninetales as a pseudo-defensive pivot for things like the Sylveon, and in the Sun it actually does a pretty good job dealing with Tentacruel as well. And then we've got Sinistra is our late game win con. So we hope we can win with this. To win with this, we have to get rid of Tentacruel. That is a must. So if he brings it, priority number 1, bait it in with something like Ninetales or something like Cinderace. You know, any of these Pokemon could really bait in Tentacruel. We're not looking that great against it. So we bring the Tentacruel in as fast as possible and we beat it down. So yeah, that's the game plan. Our team has a lot of moves that aren't at 100% accuracy. So we could see a repeat of that week where we lost due to missing absolutely everything. We could lose due to getting paralyzed. And if that happens, it happens. I can't control it any more than I already have. I feel like we have strong win cons, but if he just runs Thunder Wave and a bunch of flinch spamming moves, we might lose. We have Covert Cloak. It may not be enough. But without further ado, we'll get straight into the battle. Alright, we're about to start searching, and I heard off of a video that my opponent has never won a finals before. He's made it 2 finals, but never gotten the last piece. So if we were to lose today, that's okay. I'm happy. Someone, either he gets his first championship or we grab our first YouTube championship, and it looks like we found him, and he is bringing pretty much what I expected. No Sylveon. So, no Scyther, which totally anticipated. No Typhlosion. No Sylveon, and no Serperior. So, speed creep on Ace was a little unnecessary. Of course, the Tentacruel comes. I know it's so frustrating. He could definitely be T-Spikes, which is really tough for our team, but we can pass them back over to him, and suddenly he has to deal with getting Tentacruel back in, which means that we get to deal more damage to it. So we'll get my notepad up. So he has Samurott, he has Raging Bolt, he has Excadrill, he has Tyranitar, he has Articuno, G, and he has Tentacruel. Good luck, have fun to my opponent. We lead with Slitherwing. We hope for the best. Finals, man. Finals is always so stressful. I normally limit the time I build, but during these semifinals and finals teams, I took so long trying to think of the perfect set, and I feel like both times I just couldn't really come up with it. So here's hoping what I brought works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I'm super excited to play this game. And that's a crazy looking helmet. He leads with King, which is the Raging Bolt, which I feel like we've seen this thing way more often than I ever wanted to. So I am Slitherwing, he is Raging Bolt. If he's Specs, it's really scary. Earthquake never knocks this out. U-turn to a no health does about 35%. U-turn to max health does about 30-ish, 32-ish. So it'll do a chunk. I could Earthquake for some big damage, but he threatens to knock us out if he's Specs. I go into Screamtail here. It always lives 2 unless he is Specs. So we'll just U-turn. He does not click any kind of crazy move. He takes about 30. Leads me to believe he is max HP or something similar. Our options here are Ninetales, but that gives him a special attack boost. Sinistcha, we expect an electric move, and Scream Tail otherwise. So I think I go into Scream Tail, I see what kind of damage this thing does. So let's see. Goes for Thunderbolt, and it is not a 2-hit KO. 278. So that did 32%, which is about max special attack modest. So I can protect to scout what he wants to do. It's definitely not Scarfed or Specs. So he is T-Bolt. Non-choiced. He could easily switch out into something here. I think I can Wish once. There's nothing that can really hit me harder. He does switch. So we will get a Wish. So whatever we go into, as long as it's not one shot, does get a lot of health back. He goes into Godzilla, which is the Tyranitar. Totally fine with me. I definitely could be Thunderwave, which would be annoying. We can protect to see what he wants to do. We could make a hard switch into something like Slitherwing. So we do take Sand Chip. It's a little awkward to see that now. I haven't played Sand in so long, and Snow no longer chips, so I forget about it sometimes. Screamtail's or Slitherwing is a fine switch in. I could also protect just to get my health back up to full and see if he wants to Thunder Wave. See kind of what he wants to do. Yeah, I think I will protect just to see what the set is, because if it's Dragon Dance, it's fine. If it's Rocks, it's fine. T-Wave's fine. Does go for the Thunder Wave. Okay, we know he likes that a lot. So now I need to pick Paralysis fodder, unfortunately. We will take the Chip again, and something has to get paralyzed. And I don't want it to be my Encore Pokemon, but I think if it has to be something, it's got to be the Ninetales. If he clicks like a Rock-type move here, it's not great, but I'm okay with giving up Ninetales as a speedy Pokemon a little early. It's unfortunate, but it's kind of what we got to do. He goes for Stealth Rock instead, though, which is really nice. We can pass those back to him at some point. I don't know what he wants to go into here. He could definitely go into the Raging Bolt, but I kind of just want to go for a burn because I don't think he anticipates me to want to stay in here. Obviously, we're doing no damage. Even with Sun Up, Overheat's doing like 16%. We could go for an Overheat just to get some momentum. If he decides to switch into something, we get the switch initiative. I think I will go for a burn, though. I think Raging Bolt has a chance to come in here. So we'll see what he wants to do. There are a few switches he can make. So he does switch. Could definitely go something like Articuno. Scarfy, I'm not sure who that is. It's the Tentacruel. Okay, we do want damage on this. We do land the Wisp, which is nice. I could definitely go for my Overheat Eject Pack here, if he thinks we're going to try to make a prediction. I could also Fire Spin, though, to start getting some damage down on the Tentacruel, which I do like. So I will just go for a Fire Spin, see what he wants to do. It's really important that we break this thing eventually. So yeah, obviously the main hit does no damage, but we do trap it now. He has Toxic. Okay, so I'm really glad we switched Sinistcha to Steel. We were Water at first, but Toxic was really annoying for Sinistcha. So, I did not want to get Toxic on Sinistcha because that just makes it so much worse. So luckily now he's trapped and we can Encore him into Toxic. So these are going to be some long turns because we've got Burn, Fire Spin, and Black Sludge on his side. So that's kind of funny. I think he's taking a net 12% every turn. So we'll go for Encore now. He's forced to keep Toxicking, which does nothing. Although we don't have anything that wants to switch in on a Toxic, which is fine. So yep, he's forced to do that. We have to pay attention to his turns. His Encore turns and his Fire Spin turns. We will slowly break this down, though. Although we will also slowly be losing our Ninetales to Toxic. Suddenly we have a Thunder Wave switch in, which is nice. We want to make sure we stay above Rock's Chip health, I guess. It's pretty important. Kind of wish I had brought in Quillfish now, but I suppose then we wouldn't have this Ninetales. So best move to click here is Fire Spin, actually. Funny enough, even though it only does a baby bit of damage, we will slowly wear this guy down. Obviously, he has to Toxic again. Sun is gone. That's fine. We want to set it back up later, but we've got time. We will take a big chunk this time, so we do want to get Ninetales out relatively soon. So we'll hit him with that. He'll go below half, which is really nice. Nothing has ended yet. He is still encored. So since he's still encored, it kind of makes me want to switch on this turn. But I do have to take a Toxic on something. I suppose that something could be Ace, but I can just reset the Encore next turn. So I think it is worth going for one more Fire Spin. Obviously, this damage is not anything special, but at least we're forcing the Toxic. So I do have a choice to Encore again here and then pivot myself out, but we're going to be taking such massive damage. Yeah, we're not going to live rocks if we stay in for another turn. So I think he's still trapped, so my best play here is to actually drop an Overheat to force ourselves out. He will be able to go for a different move, but at least we can then court change the rocks back onto his side. Yeah, and we will still have our Ninetales in the back to set Sun again later. Now he could go for a water move, which would really suck. That's okay. So Overheat should knock him relatively low. Yep, with Burn, that'll keep him below 20%. And we will get our Eject Pack out. And this Ninetales set did kind of what we wanted it to. We 1v1 to Tentacruel, unless he's Rest, which is pretty nice. So something has to come in on this. Wake is a decent answer. Slitherwing could come in, but we really don't want to lose our Scarf. So I think Ace is okay. Sun's no longer up, though. So Tentacruel. If it had Surf, is doing a lot, a whole lot. So I could go, I think it's gonna have to be Wake. I think nothing it does is gonna do that much damage to Wake, so I'm okay bringing it in. It does go for Surf, so we will eat that easily. So I'm really glad I did not go into Cinderace. And he's such low health here, I feel like he might want to pivot out, but I'm not sure what. If we look at his team, nothing wants to come in on a Draco. So I am just going to go for that. I know it'll put me at -2, but we can just flip turn out on whatever he brings in afterward. He actually does not have a whole lot of speed on his team. So we'll Draco, we will take the Tentacruel, and that's what we wanted to get rid of for our Sinistcha in the endgame, which is huge. So now we'll kind of see what he wants to use to revenge Wake or scare me out. I'm not positive what it'll be. I'm a little nervous. It's Godzilla, so the Tyranitar does come back in. So what do we want to bring in on the Tyranitar? Obviously, I flip turn here. Get some momentum, get some chip damage. He is Pasho Berry, okay. So that's a good item to bring. Stops him from getting one-shot by any of our big moves. Obviously could Thunder Wave, which would be really annoying. We could bring Ninetales in to eat the Thunder Wave, but we will take rocks and poison, and it will pretty much kill us. So that'll be the last of my Sun. But then I guess we have Slitherwing that can come in. Also, we could go into this, but I just don't want it to get paralyzed. If this gets paralyzed, suddenly Encore is not a viable option into his Articuno. So we need to keep something around to help us beat Articuno. I could make an aggressive play and go into Cinderace, but I don't think so. I think we go Ninetales. We reset the Sun. We probably lose the Sun here. But that's okay. At least we're not getting paralyzed on something. So Drought will turn the sand back into Sun again. He goes for Knock, which is totally fine. We get rid of Ninetales. So we lose our Sunsetter. He's obviously going to switch this out with whatever we bring in. That being said, he doesn't have a great switch into Slitherwing or into Wake at this point. I also think Cinderace scares him out and we can get rid of rocks. But I do think our best play is to just go into Wake. So So we do get our Photosynthesis special attack, so absolutely nothing on his team wants to take this Hydro Steam. Yeah, in the sun, this is doing 108 to Tyranitar easily. I mean, his only real switch-ins are Raging Bolt, which then doesn't want to take a Draco, and Samurott, which probably doesn't want to take two. So we'll just go for it. He does switch. He does want to save the sand, so he does win the Weather War, which is okay. Goes into the Samurott H. Hydro Steam should still do a massive amount of damage. Yeah, easily 2-hit KOs. If it's not Scarf, we will KO it after this as well, and I don't think it KOs us back if it's Scarf. Ceaseless should never do over half. So we are free to click another Hydro Steam. We do knock out the Samurott, so that's one less problem for Sinistcha. So he's definitely going for the Excadrill endgame, which is fine with me. Sinistcha is looking really solid. Tyranitar almost certainly comes back in here to reset the sun. No, it is King. He brings in the Raging Bolt. He's probably Habanberry. He probably gets a special attack raise here. He does. We don't have good switch-ins to this. So he has Articuno, and he has his Sand Core left. I don't feel like we actually need Wake that much anymore, because if we Draco this and chip it down, that's really good for us. If he Dracos us back, we're looking really solid. But then again, I could just flip turn into Screamtail. Obviously, Screamtail doesn't want to take two Thunderbolts, but I think that's okay. And actually, Draco into Raging Bolt in the sun? I mean, even with the Habanberry, we might KO. So we do Draco, and we do miss. So that's pretty unfortunate, because even with the Bond, we should have been able to knock it out. And now he Dragon Pulses and knocks us out. So, not a great turn. He, depending on his investment, if he's max health, but he's Habanberry. Draco's doing 65 to 78, and he looked to be at about 65%, so we probably would have knocked him out. So that's really unfortunate. We'll bring in Screamtail here. I think I can click Gleam pretty safely. That's tough. I mean, that's the game. We ran a lot of 90% moves. We hit them all with Ninetales, which is kind of amazing. We do get a speed boost on Screamtail, not that it really matters versus this. Obviously, we threaten Encore. Thunderbolt would hurt. I think it might be safe to just Encore. But I also think chip damage on this is really important now that Wake's gone. So I am okay with just going for a Gleam. So he does switch again, probably back into T-Tar. Gleam will do some amount of damage, some small amount of damage. Yeah, it does, is T-Tar. So Sand goes up. We know he only has 5 turns of Sand, which is good. Gleam does baby damage, and he now threatens us with a Paralysis. That was a huge Draco miss. I kind of hate if we lose to that, because if we still had Wake Up at this point, you know, it doesn't matter. It's part of the game, and we've got to deal with it. I will Protect once, stall Sand turns. So we've got to win on the back of Sinistcha now, and that's going to be hard. We'll just go for a Protect. He goes for a Knockoff. Just fine play, get rid of our item. Thunder Wave would be so annoying on this. So I could bring in Cinderace here and court change those rocks back onto his side. I could bring in Slitherwing, lose my Scarf, but then really threaten him with a fighting move. But then we are looking so bad into the Articuno. Yeah, this is not a great position to be in. What I think I can do is Encore him into the knockoff, because I'd rather get knocked off than paralyzed. And I don't think this ever two-shots us with knockoff. So he does hit us. Does do a lot of damage, wow. So we will start taking Sand Chip, but we will pretty easily live the next one. So we can just go for a Wish. We have shown our full set at this point, which is totally fine. So T-Tar is Stealth Rock, Thunder Wave, Knockoff, either a coverage move or a rock move. Does switch, maybe Exca comes in here. Drum Bunker is the Excadrill. Our answer to this should always be Cinderace. There's a good chance he goes for a Swords Dance here. But that should never matter with Cinderace. We should always be able to come in pretty well for free. Unfortunately, we cannot get our Wish back on this, which kind of sucks. Adversely, we go into Slitherwing. We go for a CC. Cleanly one-shots it, and his Iron Head should never KO us back. We do have a Wish lined up. There's a good chance he goes for Swords Dance here, and I kind of want to Encore predicting the Swords Dance, but also I can't really let Screamtail go down as long as Articuno's alive. So I will just go into the Cinderace. He probably Swords Dances here if I had to guess. Take rocks. Does go for Iron Head. Okay, so we made the right play. That does a lot of damage. Wow. So Cinderace went down to 189. 55, but 67 before rock. So about 33. So that's fair. That's about right. His switch in here is relatively limited. Obviously, Bolt is a possibility. I think I can just Calm Mind though. So he does switch. T-Tar is the probable switch in. No, it is Amity. So it is the Articuno. I really want to Terra, but I know it's a bad idea. But if I Terra this, then I can win the game with Slither, I suppose. Now he could start setting up on me, but then I could just Encore him. But I feel like the Terra is just so good. If we Terra Shadow Ball, Cinderace into Articuno, Galarian, we're at +1/+1. A Shadow Ball to non-Terra Articuno is doing 81 to 96. If we Terra, his Hurricane and Freezing Glare are doing nothing to us. So honestly, I think it's worth it. This might be a misplay. This might be the misplay that costs us the game. He also Terras. Fire's fine. Fighting would be tough. Flying is fine. So Terra Flying. I'm really glad suddenly that we are Terra Steel. So Terra Flying Hurricane is doing 21 to 25% to us. Our Shadow Ball is only doing about half, unfortunately. But we can deal. So both of us get our Terras off. He probably goes for a flying move. No, he also goes for Calm Mind. Okay. So I could have switched in Screamtail for completely free and encored him there, which is a little annoying. Hopefully no special defense drop. Yeah, it doesn't do too much. Obviously he could go for an attack here, but I think he might just try to Calm Mind and outpace us. So I will make the hard switch into Screamtail, hoping to catch him with an Encore. He goes for Terra Blast. Okay, so he does call that. Now, Slitherwing, he does knock us out. Slitherwing's Wild Charge is doing about 60%. Cinderace, Pyro Ball is doing less than that. So I think Slitherwing Wild Charge is our only real play here, unfortunately. If he's max defense, we probably don't knock him out, unfortunately. But we have to go for it. This is our only real play at this point. Obviously, we could U-turn and go into Cinderace, but we're already behind now. So I think just going for Wild Charge, getting as much damage as we can, is the best play we have. We do knock him low. We don't knock him out. He is Rocky Helmet, which is a cool tech. And he Terra Blast. This will knock us out. So we burned most of our pieces. It's kind of Cinderace against the world, which is not great. But we can now revenge this with Cinderace. So Articuno is an absolute monster. We'll go into the Cinderace now. Reveal that we're Boots. Pyro Ball always knocks us out. And it's not looking good, folks. He still has a Sand Core and a Raging Bolt, and all we have is Sinistcha and Cinderace, and Sinistcha's not set up yet, so I think we might lose here. It was a great finals, and he played this really well. He kept the offensive pressure up. He's actually going to keep the Articuno up in the back. Sends in his Raging Bolt. I can actually Court Change, though, to knock out the Articuno. We do a moderate amount of damage. We don't have a great way to hit this with Cinderace. I mean, the Stealth Rocks might make the difference, but we do also want damage on this, if at all possible. He probably doesn't one-shot us. Yeah, Sucker Punch is doing a little bit more, turns us into a Dark type. U-turn, obviously, we don't want Sinistcha to take any more damage than it needs to. Does Sinistcha +1/+1 KO this? No, we do need more damage on it. So I'm just going to go for a Sucker Punch, get as much damage as I can on him. We do get our Libero. It always scares me. I always think I miss. We do knock it down relatively low. Thunderbolt should not knock us out. It should be close. Not even. Okay. I mean, I could save this, but I just don't think it's a good idea. I will probably just Court Change Rocks. I think Rocks could be important to the end game and getting rid of that Articuno. Because if it comes in and recovers and Calm Minds, I guess, I don't know, but that's also kind of our win con, right? I don't know. I think we're out of options. I think I played this incorrectly. He caught me good on that one Calm Mind into Terra Blast. I could have just kept setting up with Sinistcha. It's unfortunate. I could have won the Calm Mind War. So I guess we just hit this again, knock it really low. Yeah, we just hit it again, knock it really low. Hope that Sinistcha somehow 1v1s this, but I don't think it does. Because if we are a Terra Steel, Thunderbolt's doing about half to us. And we are sitting at full health, but we will take Rock's Chip. So, Sinistcha versus the world. If we get one Calm Mind up and then Strength Sap, we have a chance. So we'll go for one Calm Mind. He hard switches. If he goes into Articuno, okay, he goes into Tyranitar. So maybe trying to set a Thunder Wave on us. Obviously we won't get chipped by Sandstorm. But we'll just Calm Mind. This is our opportunity, right? So Tyranitar in the sand. Machagacha +1/+1. It's never knocking this out. Not even close. Knockoff to us is doing about a third. He might have EQ as his last move, I suppose. So if he is Earthquake, then it does hurt, but it shouldn't ever two-shot us. So we'll go for one more Calm Mind. Because this is our win con, you know. This is our only way to win, is to get this set up enough to burn through his last Mons. We are faster than him, so he has no speed investment. Does Thunder Wave, so we're no longer faster than him, and he's going to rely on Yellow Magic to win the game, which never feels great. +2/+2. A Machagacha is probably not knocking him out, so I could go for one more. I think I will go for Macha, though, just to get some health. He does just knock us. Does a reasonable amount of damage. We do land. What would be great here is if we get a burn. We do hurt him for quite a bit. We get a lot of health back. Not quite full. No burn. I could Matcha again. So what is Excadrill doing to us? About 80. Our Machagacha should knock him out in return, though, or get it really close at least. So he's just going to spam knockoff. So Earthquake probably will KO us, and we probably will lose, but hey, that's the game. He played it super well. Good, and congrats to my opponent for his finals victory. I thought I prepped well enough for all these Pokemon, but man, he did well. He brought exactly what he needed to bring. He called exactly when Screamtail came in. I should have just kept setting up on Articuno, because I think I do win that 1v1. So we'll just go for Machagacha. Hope for a crit. Hope he misses Earthquake. Nope, he lands it. KOs. Doesn't KO. Matcha Gacha. Crit. No crit. We knock him super low, but I don't think we get enough back here. We don't get enough back. Darn, man. I should have strength sapped. If I'd strength sapped, might have been different. Not really. We're getting paralyzed eventually. Does Earthquake, and he wins the game. Congratulations to Crash. You did amazing. I would love if everyone went and watched his side of the battle as well. Great battle. I mean, this team was one of the simplest I've seen in terms of just what it does. Every Pokemon has a role and fills it perfectly, and he just was able to beat me down. I think my big misplay was switching out Sinistra. I think if we had gotten it set up against that Articuno, if we had just 1v1 and calm-minded against it, we could have won that 1v1. I was just so scared of giving it a Shadow Ball boost. But yeah, that's the game. We make misplays. We're not perfect. And our opponent did really well. So that's that. GG's, UNPL Academy, we end second. And we'll see you for another league later on.